And I'm delighted to be here today as well to join the Cabinet Secretary in making this keynote address to this really important event. This signals the joint leadership role that local government must play alongside the Scottish Government. Today, I want to cover the importance of partnership and the central role of local government, to set that in the context of the Christie Commission and collaboration on economic and social recovery, before I focus on the task ahead, our collective focus on groups with the sharpest need and our focus for the year ahead. Through COSLA, local government has agreed to work shoulder to shoulder with Scottish Government on economic and social recovery, recognising that wider collaboration and partnership is essential too. Our joint work on recovery will build on the collaborative work that has taken place to date, perhaps most notably, as Bill has said, on opportunities for social renewal with the Social Renewable Board. I'm confident that despite the many challenges that continue to impact on us all, we can deliver upon a vision for recovery that seeks to address some of the underlying causes of child poverty in Scotland. Yesterday, I spoke at the Scottish Leadership Forum on leadership and COVID recovery. The priority themes evident in council recovery plans and priorities align strongly with the needs for action on child poverty. That is the way it should be. Those plans recognise the importance of creating green jobs and progressing the Fair Work agenda, of providing financial security for low-income households, and of supporting the well-being of our children and young people. With partnership in mind, there is a discussion to continue about a collective ownership of the next national plan to tackle child poverty. It could be argued that we need a child poverty delivery plan for Scotland, rather than a Scottish Government delivery plan. Local government's contribution to shaping the present plan could be described as limited at the very best, but I'm pleased to hear from COSLA officers that steps have been taken to make it more inclusive this time round. And we are pleased to be able to engage with the Poverty and Inequality Commission ahead of the formal advice given to the Scottish Government. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Christie Commission. Christie stated that public services are important to achieving a fair and a just society by supporting disadvantaged and vulnerable people, and are crucial to helping people into the workforce and contributing to our economy. COVID-19 has, in many respects, served to exacerbate the prevailing landscape outlined by the Christie Commission. The anniversary represents an opportunity for local government to emphasise its continued importance in the current landscape. Whilst local government and other public bodies have embraced the Christie Commission, progress to deliver on it has been challenging, not least its call for a radical shift towards preventative spending. COSLA's blueprint for local government is set in the context of Christie's key principles and the stated ambition of ensuring that decisions about our future should be made by the people most affected by them. With Christie as a challenging but important backdrop, and despite alarming signals on increasing inequality across the UK and the reducing universal credit payment, we have reason for some optimism in Scotland. We have an upfront shared priority to tackle child poverty. We have a commitment to national targets and scrutiny of progress, positive intent by the Scottish Government to use devolved social security powers to alleviate the hardship of vulnerable households, including the Scottish Child Payment. We have the statutory footing for our Scottish Poverty and Inequality Commission. We should acknowledge the role of campaigning organisations and recognise our capacity to listen. We have also seen local authorities establish local poverty commissions to challenge what they do and how they do it. I made an early reference to local government's role. Local child poverty action reports show that there is considerable work being done at a local level, and I congratulate local authorities and their local partners for their efforts. Across the three main drivers of child poverty, local government is acting on employment. Local authorities have a key role through what they can do to develop their local economies and support people into sustainable fair employment. The no one left behind employability approach should be up front and centre in our anti-poverty agendas. Local employability partnerships can go beyond helping people with the circumstances they're in to sustainability and sustainably lift them out of poverty. On costs of living, we are continuing efforts to tackle the cost of the school day. We have worked to ensure free period products are available in schools and in the community. And by almost doubling the number of funded hours of early learning and childcare, it is estimated we are helping families to save £4,000 a year in childcare costs annually from this year onwards. We are sensitive in our approach to managing the debts owed to councils by those in hardship and to help them alleviate the cost of debts they owe to others. We strive to offer fair rents and support those struggling with housing costs. On social security, we have worked with the Scottish Government over the past year to provide direct cash support to families on low incomes, which will continue until the Scottish Child Payment is fully rolled out. That's not to mention local government's role in tackling the poverty-related attainment gap, as local leaders uniquely are placed to coordinate a response to support children and families, as providers and funders of essential services. Our key role in sustaining tenancies, benefits and crisis support, what we do as placemakers, our provision and funding of direct community support and the local third sector. We must also make the most of our role as the largest local employers, harnessing more opportunities for those in our communities who need a hand up. As good as these local child poverty action reports are, we must challenge ourselves. Do they capture all of that well enough? There are some groups we consider need to be at the heart of our action we take. I want to briefly offer my perspective through my own experience and understanding. The pandemic has acted to make the challenge for those groups all the harder. Councils have stepped up with local partners during the pandemic to provide local crisis support to those on low income. But despite this, families who began with the lowest incomes and the greatest hardship have been hardest hit. Most likely they will find themselves even further back in the queue for support as others affected by the pandemic impacts press for local short-term help. Firstly, we need a gendered lens. Women have been disproportionately impacted through the pandemic. More women are financially insecure, struggling to access support, find fair, flexible and sustainable work, and are overly dependent on social security. Many of those in the severest child poverty are lone parent households, and they face additional challenges. We are a generous nation, but we must accord a higher priority to supporting those households with no recourse to public funds. This group could be at risk of not only poverty, but destitution. We need to be innovative to make sure that they receive the help they need. Those with limiting health and with those with disabilities need to be central to our response too. They need help to access employability and, as appropriate, to maximise their social security entitlements. We must ensure that services are designed with their specific needs in mind. Young people are at a particular risk of longer-term unemployment and permanent scarring, given that they too have been impacted so negatively by the pandemic and its economic consequences. Within this group, we hold a particular responsibility for care-experienced young people, and we must support them towards good outcomes and manage their transition into adulthood, ensuring that adult services are accessible and able to support their needs. I, like many councillors around Scotland, are very conscious of our role as corporate parents. As we look to step up local impact, I will see priority action areas for us all over the next year, as including accelerating work to ensure that those in greatest need are informing our plans and actions and empowered to influence all that is done. We need to extend our partnership work beyond the usual suspects and be open to different perspectives. Stepping up employability work to ensure that those furthest from the labour market and at an increasing risk of being left behind are provided the intensive support they need, that employers are engaged and receptive, and do all we can to make sure that work is fair and sustainable. We must make the most of our devolved social security arrangements to support those in poverty or at risk of poverty. We need a particular focus this year on expanding the Scottish child payment and work to introduce the new Scottish disability payments, ensuring that every opportunity is taken for alignment with employability and with other support services. We must ensure that the agreed review of the Scottish Welfare Fund is inclusive of all voices and delivers improvements and is suitably resourced to help more families access the financial crisis support they need. We need in parallel to align and continue to strengthen the advice sector and do all we can to stem the need for emergency food. I wanted to finish by saying also that we must also accelerate consideration of the findings of the Social Renewal Advisory Board, which Bill mentioned. Innovative programmes arising from that will need to be adequately resourced to enable a step change difference. Child poverty is a priority for COSLA. We are continuing to challenge ourselves to break down the policy silos, both nationally and locally, so we can take a clear and strategic approach that makes a real difference. Through our governance arrangements, we will help to develop the awareness of council leaders and senior elected members to support their own local leadership. We will listen to local concerns and represent the best interests of local authorities in our political and officer discussions with Scottish Government as we look to forge a national-local alliance that respects what all parties can bring and is mindful of the need for adequate resource to support our bold aspirations. Together, we can achieve a better, brighter future for low-income families and for Scotland's children. Let's work together. Thank you.